So today, let's talk about the moment every addict dreads, which is the moment where the urge hits. You're going about your day, all of a sudden, you want the thing. You want the thing that you've been trying to avoid and get unaddicted from. And what we thought is, let's just run through what are all the options.
Exactly, yeah.
Because I think we can summarize it. Here's all the things you can do.
And there's a good side and a bad side to that, because there's a lot of options.
There's a lot of options. And we're going to go through all of them. And I think, there are options that are pretty obvious that I'm sure you've heard about before, and we'll try to bring a bit of a different perspective to this. There are also options that are very unusual, that I'm sure I'm going to go through some stuff you've never heard of. And one thing right away, if you're wondering, well, why are you talking about all this stuff? Just tell me the best thing, right? Just tell me the one thing that works the best. And this is actually, this is the right question to ask, right? What should I do? What's the best thing to do? And my hope is that once we have laid this out, once we've laid out the structure of what you can do and how we categorize them, you will realize that there is an answer to what is the best thing to do, but it's not what you think it is. So let's get into that. So the first thing, let's just, in order to kind of split this into two categories, right? That there are two broad categories of things you can do. And we have talked about this before as well. You can essentially dissipate the urge, or you can move through it. So, and what I mean by that is, like I said, you're in this situation where you feel the urge, which is, you can think of it as like it's energy moving through your body, right? And there's a mental component. Maybe your mind is racing. You're having certain thoughts and things like that, right? But there's usually also a pretty strong physical component, right? If it was just stuff in your mind, you could be like, whatever. Your mind is thinking things all day. It doesn't force you to do anything. It's like that physical component. It feels like something is moving through your body, or stuff is going on in your body that you feel like you can't contain. And so when I say dissipate, like you take all of that energy inside you and you do something to get rid of it, essentially, to dissipate that energy. And the other thing is to move through it, to essentially almost go towards the difficult feelings inside you. So let's start with dissipating. That's what most advice you find about what to do in an urge hits really is that. And here, well, what is an obvious one, right? You can do movement stuff. Mm-hmm. You can go for a run. You can go for a walk. You can do burpees. You can do any kind of physical exercise. I like burpees as an example here, because when you do burpees, especially if you do like clean form, so you try to jump high, you do a clean push-up, it's kind of an exercise that just gets exponentially harder.
Very quickly.
Yeah. So the first 10 might feel like, oh yeah, this is fine. The second 10, different story. And no matter how fit you are, very likely before you reach 100 reps, you will be in survival mode.
Yeah.
And the great thing about this is that it really burpees use your entire, so it fatigues your muscles. It's also cardiovascularly difficult. And yeah, it basically puts your whole system into survival mode, where your priorities go from, I'm feeling something and I want to go watch porn or whatever it is. I want to go do my addiction. It just goes, no, I need to survive. How do I survive? How do I stay alive? Right?
So it's the full distraction,
yeah,
right, of every part of you.
Yeah. And it's so hard that it really shifts the priorities of your body. So it shifts your body's priorities, not just in your conscious mind, but it shifts your whole body's system. Is like, oh my God, we're using up all this energy. We have to replenish all these. You basically dump all your glucose stores in your muscles. It's like, oh God, we have to replenish this. You're out of breath, etc., etc. So on a more subconscious level than just trying to distract yourself in your mind, your body is like, the priorities have changed.
So there's like a follow-up to-do list, right?
Yes.
Now all of a sudden it's like, I wanted to do X, Y, and Z. Now I have to get food and do this and rest. And
yes.
So it's a brand new set of things to do.
Exactly. And so that's why among physical exercises, all of them can work as a way to dissipate this energy and to get your mind and your body focused on something else. Burpees are the fastest way to get there.
Fast, and you don't have to be anywhere except where you are, right?
True, because if you have enough You just need like, I don't know, you need a slightly larger space on the floor than if you're standing up straight, but that's it.
Yeah.
So in that sense, burpees are great, and I'm talking about it in these terms because I want to be clear about what is happening. And before we get into all the other stuff, note that I think we should address what doesn't work. What doesn't work is like trying to push your feelings or thoughts away. So when you have the feelings of the urge comes up, essentially trying to internally resist that or trying to stop thinking about it, that is not going to do it. In fact, if anything, it's probably going to make the problem worse. So we tend to get this weird thing that the mind does, is that the more you try to get rid of a thought, the more it keeps coming, right?
Yeah.
And that's the first thing that I want to highlight, that difference between the kind of futile struggle of, I don't want to think about this, I want to push away these thoughts and feelings, which doesn't work at all, versus doing physical activity that almost changes. So first of all, instead of trying not to do something, you're putting all your energy into doing something else, and it gets your whole body to shift priorities to something else.
And there can be a conscious thing where you're saying, yes, I am doing this to work out the urge, but I'm not doing it to completely forget that I'm having the urge. You can be conscious of, I'm feeling an urge and I'm doing exercise, that they can exist together.
Exactly, yeah. And so it puts you in a position where you don't have to try and resist. And
I'm trying to forget now. Now, because I'm doing burpees, I'm trying to forget. It's not that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also, so it eliminates the pink elephant problem. We've talked about this as, if you think, okay, don't think of a pink elephant, what happens? I mean, you think of a pink elephant, obviously. And so it's like you can't not think of something. And it relieves you of that problem. You don't have to try and not think. So you simply start spending your time and energy on something else. So, okay. So that's the movement part. Yeah.
Well, while we're on movement, let's something that's closely related, that is slightly different to that, is a sport. So something that where you're engaged either with other people in team sports, or a sport that occupies your entire focus. If you have the opportunity to go and participate in that sport, that will also completely take that energy in a different direction.
Yeah, and it's also just one of those things where that's just the nature of the mind and the nature of emotions and thoughts and everything, is that they come and go. And one of the things we're doing here as well, it's like, if you play a sport or any of the stuff we talked about so far, it's like it will just help you transition to the next set of thoughts and feelings. It's going to happen anyway, even if you do nothing. But it just helps, it gives you something else to focus on, something else to do.
And there's many movement skills where, again, the movement leads you to engage with something on all your faculties. You're having to challenge yourself. And that, so movement skills are simple tricks like trying to learn how to do a handstand. So that kind of thing. Yeah. Again, you don't need to run off to a gym or exert yourself entirely. So movement is a broad topic that isn't just burpees or gym or this. There's many options here.
Exactly. And so on that note, we can go into one of the things you can do is you can think of, how do I occupy myself as skill building? That's one of the options where we can look at, okay, you can build skills, and that can include what you just said, movement skills, handstand, juggling, card tricks, whatever, backflips, anything, right? Personally, I also want to say, so first of all, it's one of those things that can just be a lot of fun and deeply engaging. And there are many skills where you can get this really satisfying feeling of making progress quickly. And for example, handstand can be a bit frustrating. But if you have, because it can take a long time to get anywhere with it, but if you have progression, if you go, okay, well, I'm going to do a headstand first, and then I'm going to do and the crow pose and so on, you can have this sense of, I'm able to do something I wasn't able to do before, and you can have it repeatedly, and that's great. Yeah. So it's very motivating, and again, it like occupies your whole attentional space, essentially. And personally, I love movement skills. I love all kinds of movement skills. I really like balancing. I'm practicing various ways of balancing, like slacklining, things like that. I love flowy movement, so like staff spinning and things like that. Again, it's just like really fun to make progress, learn a new trick, make it smoother, and so on. Such a beautiful distraction, basically. And I also want to say on this note that it doesn't always have, like, don't be a perfectionist about this.
Yeah.
So there's lots of stuff, and staff spinning is actually a good example of that. It's like I can twirl a stick around, but I'm not like world champion level good at it, you know. I can just do it a bit. I just do it for fun. And there are things like card tricks. You know, at one point I got quite interested in illusionism, and I learned how to do, like, I don't know, 3 card tricks and some basic shuffles and stuff. And I just had fun, like, playing with a deck of cards and understanding the simplest card trick is like, how can I make someone go, what just happened? With the simplest trick, like, I can literally do that. I think I only know one. I can do one trick now.
It's enough.
I still know how it works. Yeah. I still know how it works. But just that engagement, this is like a totally surface level engagement of, I want to understand this a little bit. I'm like dipping my toes in. And that's fun. And that occupied me for, I don't know how long. It was a long time ago, right? But maybe for a week, I was playing with cards a little bit. And it was fun. And I read a book about this stuff, right? And that's it. You don't have to, it doesn't always have to be, okay, I'm going to become the world's greatest magician. It's like, no. Yeah. You can just do something for fun to add a little bit of a skill. You know, you can learn to juggle 3 balls. That's it.
Done. Yeah.
Done. You can move on to a different skill, right?
And the thing is, once you get one of those and you realize, oh, that wasn't so hard to do, I call it the party trick.
Yeah.
Think of it as a party trick. You just want to have that one thing. You're not an expert at it. You're just doing the party trick. Once you have that first party trick and you go, wow, everybody's impressed with me. And it wasn't that difficult.
Yeah.
I want more.
Yeah.
Like, what else can I do? Exactly. So there's that social component. You feel rewarded by people being impressed by you. It wasn't that hard. I can achieve things.
Yeah.
And what you said now, I started reading a book. There's that ripple effect of other activities come into the play. For me, handstand, going back to that one, it's something I've been struggling with for a while now. It's like, I thought, 30 days, I'll get this down. And I've been so deliberate about it. I'm still not 100% there. But as a consequence of that, I've gone, the reason is my shoulder is not strong enough. Where? It's this muscle. How do I train that muscle? I need to do more of these. And there's this whole world of exercises that I do now.
Right.
All to support my handstand.
Exactly.
And I'm learning and it's going. And this is the ripple effect of learning one little movement skill.
Exactly. And it gives you these options, right? So if you have a couple of skills like this that you are interested in pursuing, that's one of the things that just becomes an option. It's like, I'm at home, alone, I'm bored, I'm feeling the urge. This is where I usually relapse. And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to go practice my handstand. I'm going to go practice my card trick or whatever. You just have that option and it's appealing to you because obviously you pick something that you want to explore, you want to play with. And so it gives you an appealing option to do instead. And you can just go, okay, I'm going to get into this. And what usually happens is fairly quickly, you then get occupied by trying to learn this new thing. You forget about the urge, right? That's essentially how this plays in. Now, one more thing that I want to add, and we'll go through a whole bunch of other skills here and a whole bunch of other things to focus on. But the reason I'm starting with movement is that it is one of the brain healthiest things you can do. And as an addict, one of the challenges is that your addiction has had a hand in shaping your brain to a greater degree than is good for you. And you have to, that's part of what we're trying to do is you have to create neurological change, right? Overcoming an addiction, like any behavior change, is neurological change. And exercise, and including, cardiovascular exercise, strength exercise, learning skill movements, fine motor skills, everything to do with movement is a really good way to make neurological change happen faster. So this is why this is my starting point, and this is why I think some form of physical exercise is so important for anyone who wants to overcome an addiction. This is the turbo boost for your brain growth. So that's why this is especially useful.
So the pattern is already clear. If you need something to do, that's your number one.
Yeah.
And we'll come to this later. In your first split option, do I do A or B? This is one of those.
Definitely, yeah. Now, talking about skill building, we've talked about physical skills, and we have this model that we've also talked about before, which we call getting your shit together, where we split into like, okay, what are the basic skills you need to have? And we split them into physical, emotional, mental, social, and financial skills. Because if you get your shit together in these 5 areas, you'll have a pretty good life. And if you don't, you'll suffer. Simply put, right? So we've talked about physical. You can do physical skill building. One more skill that belongs in this category worth mentioning would be cooking. Learn how to cook and feed yourself. Also, it's not exactly a party trick, but it does impress people.
Yeah,
you can cook.
And it's got layers, right? You can start simple. Some people don't know how to make rice.
Yeah.
And I'm no judgment, but start there. And once you know how to make rice, make a bolognese.
Yeah.
And once you know how to do that, like my thing is always, if you want to be challenged, make a lasagna.
Right.
It's not out of this world difficult, but it's got a lot of steps in it, and it's got a lot of processes that are individual, and you got to then like put them together. So yeah, if you've never cooked before, make that your target. Like, I'm going to learn until I know how to make a lasagna. It will occupy you.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's very useful skill. Saves
Super
you money. Is amazing. And also, even start with learning how to cook rice, and you can even evolve that into fried rice, and it can end up being an amazing fried rice. It's like which is it can still be simple, low budget, healthy, etc. So,
and you see how the stack already happens. Like, what's the first thing I do? Oh, I need to go work out. Oh, now I'm hungry.
Yeah,
let me go learn how to cook. There you go.
Yeah. Okay, so let's quickly go into the second category here, which is emotional skills. So essentially most of us don't learn great emotional skills, and basically people are emotionally immature, and what happens is that as a result of that, we have internal problems. So you might have a lot of like self-loathing, negative self-talk. You'd have a lot of like internal tension, lack of confidence, etc., etc. Those are all emotional issues. And external problems such as you don't know how to resolve conflicts with other people. The typical pattern is that people will either be like toxic all the time or like hold it in as long as they can and then explode onto someone.
I was more like that.
I'm
glad to mention.
So how does one develop emotional skills? This obviously, without spending this, we could spend a lot of time on this question. But what I would say that the 2 main things to start with are introspective writing and meditation. So introspective writing, you can go to the Quit by Healing Discord to get a crash course on this, on what exactly this is, and just start building this skill. But it's basically a way to use writing to process what's going on inside you, including emotions around, let's say, a lack of self-acceptance, a lack of courage, a lack of all these kind of internal, nice guy behavior, all this kind of stuff, right? Introspective writing is a way to start unpacking that and making sense of it. And in many cases, you can resolve things. Like for me, self-acceptance was a big one. I used to basically hate myself. And I resolved that. I would say I made 90% of the progress I made in this area of life through writing. We're just going, okay, why do I dislike myself? What's going on? And writing about that, writing about how I feel, trying to figure out, why do I feel like this? Where did I pick up these ideas about myself? And so on and so on. And this is over a long time, right? I'm not talking about sitting down once and writing about this and then everything is solved. This is over a long time, just spending time writing about this, thinking about it. And it's almost like just making deliberate progress in this case, in the area of my self-acceptance, instead of just staying stuck, which is what usually happens. You just stay stuck in a loop forever until you bring some kind of attention to it. So, and another simple thing that is very helpful there is gratitude writing. Just get into the habit of writing about things you're grateful for is a great way to start changing your mind, changing your mindset, and also shifting like in a negative internal emotional tone towards a more positive one. And so those would be like the basic tools. Like I said, you can find the link in the description to go to the community, and there's an introspective writing crash course there. It's completely free. And the other thing would be meditation. Again, there's lots of different types of meditation and so on, but that's one of the things you can do. I recommend that what people usually find, if you get the free meditation app or whatever, you'll find mindfulness meditation, which you should know the basics of how to just sit and pay attention to what's happening. And what I also recommend, what most people, what I'm always surprised how few people know about this is what's called metta meditation, METTA, or loving kindness meditation or compassion meditation. These all describe the same thing. And this is, I think, an extremely good tool. This is one of those ancient, the Tibetans have been doing for thousands of years kinds of things that wide-eyed Westerners have recently discovered, oh my God, we can do this. And I think metta meditation or loving kindness meditation is an extremely potent tool for working on dissolving internal tensions and emotional issues. And again, this is one of those things you can do. You have an urge, you feel bad, you're in a situation where you usually relapse. You go, okay, I'm going to sit down and start writing, or I'm going to sit down and do this meditation. And if you do even a 10-minute meditation, or if you do a half-hour meditation, by the end of that, you've forgotten all about your urge, right? It takes too much time and attention for the urge to stick around for the duration.
Yeah. And I would also encourage people to go further than the short ones. It's not a must, but I often find one will write and then, I feel better. And then put it down. And then 10 minutes later, the urge is back. And it's it didn't work. Right. It's because you scratched the surface of feeling better. The real feeling better is on the other end of the third or fourth page of writing.
Yeah. That's a great point.
So
keep
don't
going.
just keep going, even once you start feeling better.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to keep going, just sit there for a little bit longer. Just push past. And the same with the meditation. It's do a 10-minute, see how you feel. And if you're still bored because you still got nothing to do for that afternoon, go, okay, I'm putting on a 45-minute meditation and just push through that.
That's great. Yeah, that's a great point. I think that's it's very, very good to push past at least the first impulse to stop. There's usually some really good stuff waiting on the other side of that. Yeah.
There's one meditation type that I've used in recent months when going through kind of unsettling feelings, and that's a themed guided meditation around impermanence. It'll be 10 minutes to remind me that everything is temporary, including this feeling right now. And it's just I needed somebody to tell me that again.
Yeah.
And then I'll go through 10 minutes and go, oh yeah, this is impermanent. This is not going to last forever. But I'm not done yet. And that's when I'll put on some other meditation as a secondary follow-up. But the first one is just just remind me of that thing I needed to know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good theme to look for on YouTube. You just type impermanence meditations. There's hundreds to choose from. And
right.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
That's good. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next category here, which is mental skills. So mental skills is essentially just developing your mind, developing and I'm talking here about the rational thinking, strategizing part of your mind. Is an unbelievably potent tool that we all carry around with ourselves. And again, most of us, even though most of us spend years in school, but we don't actually learn how to use our minds usually. So how do you develop your mind? The life hack here is reading, and reading books specifically, right? Not tweets or articles. Long form content, engaging with long form content is really a huge, huge life hack. And it's one of those slow burn things because when you start reading, especially if you're used to consuming highly, made for engagement, short form, spectacular content essentially, right? And you sit down to read a book, then it's that it's so slow, the pace is so slow, the energy of that is so different that initially it's this feels boring, or this is what's happening, right? I'm not getting the feeling of satisfaction that I'm looking for here, that I'm used to, that I've trained myself to expect. And even if you read one whole book, your experience might be okay, well, that was good, but where's the life-changing effect, right? But what happens is that it is a slow burn, but you underestimate it. Because by the time you've read 10 books, you'll notice a change in quality of mind. And you'll start noticing when you talk to people that the way you think and the way you express yourself and the level of understanding you have about things is just different. And yeah, for me, it's like if you're interested in a topic, like read at least 3 books about it, and you will notice that most people who talk about that topic, including some people who call themselves experts, have no clue what they're talking about. And it just opens up a whole different world to have engaged with something. And it's not even that deep, right? 3 books is not that much. But you'll just realize like, oh, wow, there are people going around, some people even like I said, branded as experts, paid to engage with this topic, who know less than I do about this, who understand less. And basically, it's exponential returns. The more you read, the more intricate and advanced your thinking becomes. It's a huge life hack. Highly recommend doing that.
I would say in terms of healthy dopamine, this is the strongest one. For me anyway. My experience of it has been the reward is the highest dopamine lever, because exercise gets you to the fit and lean body. And anybody who's has had some form of transformation. I've lost 25 kilograms and I've gone through a really good, like where I look in the mirror and I'm not where I want to be, whoever is, but I'm very proud of myself. But I know the experience of when you get that, it's like, oh, I'm here now. This isn't isn't as amazing as I hoped it would be. But with those conversations about having deeper understanding, it is exactly as amazing. It's actually more amazing than you thought it would be. And it really is like, oh my God, I'm very proud of myself. I feel really good right now.
Nice. Yeah.
So the book thing, definitely going deeper has been amazing.
Yeah. Now, another note here about how to make this work, as again, you want to have an option, you want to have an alternative to when the urge hits, what do I do instead of relapsing? It's really important to read books that are interesting. So it's not important to read books that are entertaining or easy to read or easy to understand. In fact, I think that's often the mistake. So you go, oh, this is a bit difficult. No, are you curious about this? Do you want to understand this? Right? And it can be a book that is important to you. So, I've read tons of business books, and often it's like I have this serious problem in my business I need to solve, so I'm going to read this book about it. So, and I want to make that clear, right? It's an appealing option. What should I spend my time on? I want to read this book. Not because it's entertaining me sentence by sentence, but because this is a serious problem I need to solve, and this book is helping me do that, right? Or it can be something that is just challenging, right? And fascinating, basically. So one of my recent favorite books was The Beginning of Infinity by David Deutsch, which is essentially about the nature of reality, I guess. And it's written by a physicist, and he definitely lost me during periods of the book where I'm like, I can't explain this. I can't tell you what he said, basically. But to me, it's just fascinating. It is fascinating to learn someone's really well-formulated thoughts about the nature of reality, from someone who's clearly a lot smarter than me, basically, right? I want that. I want that experience. So, and I'm making this point because, again, the schooling system, the way I experienced school is that the experience of reading was a slog. You didn't want to. You had to read these boring books against your will.
Punishment.
It's some kind of a punishment, exactly. And that's not how reading should feel. Reading should feel like, I want to read this. I want to feed my brain with this stuff. So it's really important that you read things that you actually care about.
A good signal is that if you read the first chapter and you can't wait to tell somebody about something you just learned, that's like a good signal.
And that's like the highest leverage thing to develop your mind. Anything else that's like active learning, where you're deliberately learning, taking notes, practicing, etc. Could be learning a language, for example, as well, or learning how to code, anything like that, right? And also mental models. if you want to have kind of a direct access to how do I think better, is learning about mental models and practicing those mental models. Also learning about cognitive biases and things like that. Like learning how to, it's almost like a meta skill, learning how the mind works and how to use the mind more effectively. And again, all of this can occupy your time and can just make you a better human who lives a better life. So it's well worth doing. Next, in the skill building category is social skills. This is an interesting one for addiction because there is, let's say, the possible hypothesis is that the opposite of addiction is connection. Mm. So there's the famous rat park experiment where they noticed that if you give rats a water dispenser that's laced with cocaine, they'll get addicted to that, obviously, and they'll overuse it and even, overuse it excessively. It's addiction. But what's interesting is if you give the rat access to, a normal water dispenser and a cocaine-laced water dispenser, if they're alone in a cage, they will do the cocaine all the time. But if they're in a cage with other rats and with toys and with labyrinths and mazes and so on, right, where they basically can socialize with other rats and they have an environment that's not just like a sad little cage, then they're not interested in the cocaine water and they will drink the clean water. So, and that's an interesting phenomenon that I do think we can also see in humans, where if you are really socially connected, if you have the sense of belonging and community and there are people you love and that you feel accepted by and people who support you and who lean on you for support and so on, that addictive behavior is a lot less interesting in those circumstances. And there's, in many addictions, there is this aspect of isolation. Right? You do it alone. You do it in a way to deal with the pain of isolation as well. There's something you're not getting, which you might get in community, but you're not getting it, you're in pain, and you use addiction. So that's why social skills are actually also quite relevant here for what we're talking about.
Yeah. It's hard to identify social skills sometimes because there's one that stands out that's clear. Now, let's address that first before I come back to the other point, which is communication. Yeah. It's the universal skill that plugs into all the other ways that you apply it, which is that's the second part of what I want to say. But learning communication skills on their own for the sake of it is worth it.
Yeah. And we can break that down into learning how to speak.
Yes.
Learning how to listen, learning how to be persuasive, and learning how to build rapport. Mm-hmm. Those are, and we could break that down further, but those are things you can very specifically
read
pursue.
Books about.
Yeah, you can read books about, and you can practice, right? You can practice these skills. So, speaking, and so that can be just explaining things, telling stories, etc. Listening is just as important. Like, can you make someone feel heard? Most people can't. Makes a huge difference. If you develop a listening skill, people will love you, basically. Persuasion is anything like, can you win a debate? Can you sell something? Can you, win a negotiation? Very interesting set of skills there. And rapport is, can you build a deep connection, deep sense of connection with another person? It's almost the opposite of persuasion. Persuasion is essentially is me versus you, and rapport is us together.
Yes.
And all of these things are skills you can develop. And again, most people have absolutely no communication skill. Most people have a little bit of communication skill accidentally, right?
In one of those domains.
In one of those domains, exactly. And you can get such an amazing edge in life by developing one or several of these deliberately.
And then, so now that we know that, so that you can actively go learn those communication skills, that's when you take them and you use social skills across the other domains. It's almost like the meta category where you go, I want to exercise, do it with somebody.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to learn how to be emotionally more resilient. Okay, I'm going to practice nonviolent communication with somebody. Exactly. So you start to get that community aspect. And it's so important because you can join a community like the Quit by Healing community. There's thousands of people there now. But you can see so many people are excluded because they don't know when can I emotional dump on other people and when shouldn't I? And it's just a lack of awareness. So you see how it bleeds into the other categories.
Yeah.
And judgment-free zone is is so necessary to get through an addiction. You have to be able to express clearly, but you also have to know there's a boundary. I'm leaning on other people, and without the communication skills or the awareness of it, you'll be oblivious, and people will start retreating from you, and you will start being judged. So this is so important when you're part of a community to understand where your boundaries are, where their boundaries are, and how do we engage together? Because that's how you're going to beat the addiction, basically, by being together, but tolerable.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I also, another thing I want to address here is, like, some people might be listening to this and being like, well, but I am lonely. I don't have friends. I don't have people I can practice this stuff with, or like, what do I do, right? How do I go essentially from scratch? Or what's very common is, like, I have acquaintances but not friends. Sure, there are people I work with or people I go to school with or something, people I hang out with, but we're not actually close. And in a way, it feels lonely to be among those people because I'm constantly having to pretend. I'm constantly essentially having to pretend like I'm someone else in order to fit in or whatever. So how do you solve that problem? And really, the answer is social courage. You have to develop social courage, which goes from, anything from, like, having the courage to go talk to a stranger, which is obviously very difficult for most people. But also within existing relationships, you essentially have to learn to be vulnerable. You have to learn to be able to reveal yourself, because most people will not reveal themselves and not be vulnerable until someone else does it first. And you have to go first. You can't just wait around until those very, very rare people show up who do it. You're lucky if you have someone like that in your life. It's extremely rare, but you can be that person.
Yeah.
So, and there's no way around that, right? And again, this is like a challenge. This is the thing to work on. Go have some social courage.
And having those movement skills and the books you read, and just saying, if you do those things, you have more reason to approach other people or be part of other communities, and it just gets easier.
It gets easier. I know so many people from going to workshops, going to classes, or even running my own meetups and things like that. Also, where again, like, I'm doing something else, but the social aspect and getting to know people is a side effect.
Yeah.
Also, this is paper books are good for this. Like, I've met people just sitting in a cafe reading a physical book where people can see what you're reading, and they go, "Oh, I've read that too," and you start a conversation, or, "Oh, is that a good book?" or whatever.
Yeah. So think about those other categories and then see how social blends into that. It doesn't have to be the first move. It can be the second move, but attach it to something else.
And then the final one of our getting your shit together categories is financial. So obviously, financial skills, very useful to have. And we can break that down into income generation, saving or budgeting, and investing. Okay? So making money, keeping it, and making more of it, or turning it into more. Again, this is a deep skill set.
Yeah, each one of those has multiple breakdowns again.
Yeah, it's very much worth doing, right?
Absolutely.
So again, what should you do with your time? Well, could you do something that makes money?
Good idea.
All right, so those are the getting your shit together. These are all the things you can do. Like, these are all things that are well worth your time and energy, that will occupy attention and space and time and energy, that redirects away from the urge, right? And again, it's basically, like we were saying in the beginning, okay, there's loads of options here. There's basically too many options.
It is.
It's too many options, and it's true. That means there's always something better to do.
I was thinking that now. When people say, I don't know what to do, at first I get like, oh my God, life is too short to feel that way. It is.
Exactly.
There's just not enough time in an 80-year-old span, 80 to 90. There's too many things.
Exactly.
So yeah, but I also have empathy for that. I understand you're at a point in your life where you don't feel like you can do anything. So these things that we've just been through, these are a starting point to just get good at something small and build momentum. And once you have that, you will never, ever have the thing, I don't know what to do again.
And again, just to kind of zoom out a little bit, right? The idea here is that you want to develop these habits and you want to explore these different skills so that whenever the urge hits, so first of all, so that there are fewer instances in your life where you're sitting around with nothing to do, which is one of the big triggers that gets people, right? Is essentially home alone, bored. But also, the more you do this, the more you have like a list of appealing options. There's all these skills I'm trying to learn. There's all these things I'm working on. There's all these books I can read. And it's just easier to not relapse when it's like, okay, well, I feel this urge right now, but there's also this book I want to read. Mm-hmm. It's just easier. Mm-hmm. That's basically what we're talking about.
So make the list. Yeah. Sit down and make that list and use these categories to say, I'm going to pick 1 or 2 things for each category. Mm-hmm. So that you really don't have to think about it when the urge hits, that you go, oh, wait, I've done the exercise. I'm prepared for this.
Yeah.
So here are the 6 categories. Here are the 12 things I can choose from immediately.
Yeah. Okay. Next, we're still in the dissipating the urge category. And so one of the things you might also, but I'm going to basically skip past that. Like sometimes what you need is rest. Sometimes most people are sleep deprived. You know, one of the questions is, can you sleep instead? That's probably good for you. And we have a whole video, we can link to that, about how to learn how to sleep essentially, because that's a big problem. A lot of, especially social media addicts, phone addicts, porn addicts have this. You don't know how to sleep, and then you're frustratingly lying awake in bed, and that's when you relapse essentially, or that's when you overuse, but you can learn how to sleep. But another thing I want to talk about and break down a little bit is you can address your nervous system. So, and you can change the state of your nervous system from one of, oh my God, active, I need to go do something, I want to relapse. You can essentially affect your nervous system. The most effective way to do it is through breath work. And so the simplest form of that is you just do deliberate breathing where you extend the exhale. So slow exhale, normal speed inhale, slow exhale, normal speed inhale. That just basically down regulates your nervous system. It goes from overly active to relaxed. And then there's also other things, like you can do the 4-7-8 breathing. You can do the physiological sigh. There's hundreds of breathwork methods. But all of them have in common that you go, okay, instead of like focusing on the feelings and the mind and trying to change my mind and so on, it's like I'm actually addressing this at a deeper level. I'm changing the state of my nervous system. Mm-hmm. You can also combine this with certain visualization exercises. You can combine this, and we call this, we have this in the Quit by Healing program. There's this thing called the relaxation ritual, which is like a step-by-step, like do these things when you feel the urge to switch your nervous system into a different mode, right? So again, that's just another option. If you have those tools, that's highly useful. But that is still only dissipating the urge. And one more thing now, and we're going to get to moving through the urge, and at that point you'll see why it's important to have that as like the dissipating the urge can only take you so far.
Yeah.
And so we'll go to moving through the urge. But first, I also want to address what most people do, which is you try to avoid an addiction and you go to a different addiction. Okay? Like,
yeah.
That's the default response for loads of people. So let's say you're a porn addict, you want to avoid porn, you feel the urge, you pull out your phone and you get on Reddit or on Twitter, or you start chatting with your friends, you play a video game, or you go binge eat, or you try to distract yourself by consuming something else. And you're addicted to that stuff too. Maybe you're not thinking about it like that, but that's also an addiction. And it's basically addressing many of the same like dopamine cycles. It's doing a lot of the same stuff to your brain when you scroll through a social media feed as if you're watching porn. It's a bit less extreme. Mm. But one of the problems with this is that it does nothing to improve the condition of your brain. So it does nothing, even if you successfully distract yourself from a porn binge by spending an hour on TikTok, you've done nothing to address the neurological or the hormonal issues that have turned you into an addict in the first place. Mm-hmm. You've just given yourself a slightly different hit.
Yeah.
And the second problem is that it is so adjacent to your addiction. It's such a similar thing, right? Most addictions are, I'm going to consume a thing that changes my state in some way, that gives me the dopamine spike I want or whatever. And so any other form of consuming a thing that gives you that state change you seek, and in this kind of instant gratification rapid form, it's so adjacent to the addiction you're trying to avoid that what usually happens is you relapse from one into the other, right? Because hey, you're
super common. Yeah.
You're already on your phone, you're already scrolling through stuff, you're already being dopamine spiked. It's like one, it's one or two swipes over, you're in the thing that finally that you quote unquote really want. And that's what makes such a huge difference, right? If you try to address your urge, but you're on your phone, you're in your room alone and doing this dopaminergic stuff, you're so close to still relapsing. And on the other hand, if you leave your phone at home and you go for a long walk, then you're in a completely different environment. You're moving your body, you're outdoors, and you're so far away from relapsing, right? It just gives you such a better chance of actually getting through the urge than if you stay this close to it. It's like you're this close to relapsing.
I mean, any form of junk dopamine is a relapse as far as your brain is concerned.
True, yeah.
Right? You think it's not. You think, oh, it's something different. Your brain doesn't know. It's why. I mean, it just...
It's close enough.
It's close enough to say, I didn't relapse on porn, but I relapsed on dopamine.
Yeah.
On the dopamine depletion cycle.
Yeah.
And that's the only relapse that really matters. So, yeah, any form of junk dopamine replacement is... And I have heard people kind of go, oh, yeah, but it's good to like step down, go from a bad addiction to a less bad. I completely, from my own experience of being an alcohol addict for many years, there are a few exceptions. Like heroin is an exception where like methadone and that, but forget about the examples, forget about the exceptions. And porn is a bad one, right? It's a very, very bad one. So you could go, yeah, but it's like it's the one that needs no.
Yeah,
you got to cut it.
Look, I can also say this from my own the porn addiction. When I was addicted to porn, it was almost always consumption of some other thing that led me to porn. It almost always started with like scrolling through Reddit or something, right? So I'm already doing that thing, and then I eventually go to porn. So it's like, for me, it's the opposite. The lesser version of the thing is what makes me relapse.
Exactly. It's yeah.
And also, I also noticed this with sugar, right? That's the other thing that I easily get addicted to. And the easiest way for me to become a full-on sugar addict is to have a little bit of sugar, right? Or maybe something that's sweetened with something else than sugar or whatever. It doesn't matter, right? The milder form of it is the pathway into the full.
Yeah. And I think it's important to mention this because there is a difference between downgrading an addiction or decoupling two addictions. It's not the same thing. Like smoking and drinking go together. It does make sense to stop one. Right. And then the other. I've seen that work for some people because they're so close that, and this is why you also say like why masturbation and porn need to be treated separately.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And in this case, one's not even that bad. So it's even better to really decouple as opposed to seeing it as a downgrade to a lesser addiction.
That's a good point. Yes. Yes. And that's also, we have other content on that. Like if you're confused about this, right? This is not a NoFap podcast.
Yeah.
This is a porn addiction
say
podcast.
It, communication.
Yeah. And if you're confused about that, we'll link to a video explaining that below. So now let's go to the other branch of options. You feel the urge, and instead of trying to get rid of it, instead of trying to dissipate it, what if you move through the urge? What if you like dive into the urge? And this is where a lot of the healing happens. So what does that mean? There's basically two approaches to doing this. One of them is being in observer mode, and the other is active engagement with the urge. So being in an observer mode, the most basic thing you can do is what we call sitting in the fire, where you go, okay, I feel this urge and I have these thoughts, and you just sit with it. You just sit there and experience what's happening with no judgment, with no attempt to change anything about it. You just go, let's feel this urge right now. And a variation on that is what I call the embodiment method, where you specifically pay attention to the physical sensations. So where you go, okay, I'm feeling this urge. Where in my body am I feeling it? How does my body feel? Right? If basically, how do I know that I'm feeling an urge? And you try to locate that in your body, and then you would pay attention to the feeling in your body. And again, you're not trying to make it go away. You're not, if you feel like, oh, I feel tense in my chest, you're not trying to relax your chest. No, you're trying to feel that tension. And the way I think of it is like you're trying to zoom in with your attention. Okay, what exactly am I feeling? What does this tension in my chest feel like? Does it have a shape? Does it have a size? Does it have a texture? You just pay attention to it. And you keep paying attention to it, it will probably start changing and moving, and you keep paying attention to it. And then you can, and basically that's it, right? Again, like, this is why I'm saying you're in observer mode. You're not going, you're not going, okay, I'm going to now do something with these feelings. Mm-hmm. You're just here to feel them. Mm-hmm. That's it. And if you're wondering, but then how, what do I do? How, what happens next? Well, nothing. You just stay there. And it is also fine to get bored. Okay, you might sit there and be like, okay, I'm still feeling the urge. I still have, I'm having the same thought loop for the 12th time now, and this is boring. Okay, we'll feel the boredom. Mm-hmm. Because basically, look, you don't have to do anything. You can sit here, and the truth is, so this is one of the things you can, by doing this, by being the observer, especially when you're having a difficult time. But this is not meditation where it's like you're nice and comfortable and the weather is nice and the sound is nice, chimes in the background. No. It sucks to be you right now. Yeah. And that's what you're paying attention to. And one of the things that you can hopefully notice when you practice this is that negative emotions are very deceptive. And especially something like an urge is very deceptive because it suggests to you that I can't handle this. I can't handle this. I have to do something. But guess what? By the time you notice it, you've already handled it, right? You've already survived the thing. By the time you have the thought, I can't take it, you've already taken it, right? Because there's only the present moment. And right in that present moment, when you think I have to do something because I can't handle it, you didn't do anything. You just experienced it, right? So
just carry on.
Just keep doing that. Yeah, exactly. Keep doing that.
And yes, just to be 100% clear, it is horrible. It is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And the first category, the dissipation category, is the easier choice.
100%.
100% easier. Another thing I just want to hammer in the point, to be clear, meditation exists on the at side of the category and it exists on this side of the category. And it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not the same to sit there and do an impermanence or whatever, or meta meditation, or whichever one you choose, versus I'm going to sit and focus on it. These are two separate options that go down two separate paths.
Also, I want to say, like, this is some warrior stuff. Okay. Like, this requires a warrior attitude to say, I am going to sit here and experience the thing I don't want to experience. I'm going to experience the discomfort and the urge and the racing mind and the anxiety and all of it. I'm just going to sit here and experience it. And obviously, that's something that most people struggle with. It's very useful to develop that. Okay, now what you can also do is actively engage with this. But it's the same idea. You go into the feelings that you usually try and run away from, and you actively engage with them. And we call this, one of the categories of this is we call shadow work. You work with the shadow side. You work with the things that you usually don't pay attention to or aren't even aware of or try to run away from. And so what does that look like? Well, one of the things you can do here is, if you're doing the embodiment method, or you're doing sitting in the fire, you're paying attention to what's happening, you can then start engaging with that. You can go, okay, so I'm feeling this real tightness and unpleasant buzzing in my chest, and you can go, can I feel more of this? That's one way to actively engage with it, right? To do the opposite of trying to push it away, you go, what if I feel more? And this, look, this is a very advanced kind of thing. Most people are not. It takes time before you can do something like this. But it's the opposite of trying to avoid the feeling, is to go, okay, can I let this feeling, again, can I feel more anxiety? Can I feel more discomfort? Can I let this feeling take over? Can I let this urge? And this is like the one way you can think of it is usually you feel like I can't take the urge. I have to do something about it. What if you basically tell yourself, okay, let's feel this urge. Let's feel the strongest urge I've ever felt. Can I let this urge kill me?
Nice.
Can I let this urge get so strong that it kills me? Right? And be willing to die of an urge.
Okay.
And what you'll find is that it does not kill you.
Yeah. That's cool.
In fact, it goes nowhere near killing you.
Yeah, no.
I've had really strong fever. I had a really, really strong fever at one point where it felt like, I don't know how close I was to dying. You can die of a fever, right? I don't know how close I was to dying, but I remember, and it went on for quite a long time, and I remember thinking like, I can feel that this could kill me. I can feel that this fever, I can feel that I can't, if you keep turning this up, I'm going to die. I could feel that. The strongest urge I have ever had for any addictive thing is nowhere near that strong. Okay, it's not even in the same dimension. Like, it's, and what I'm trying to say is, right, you have this sense, again, you have this sense of, I can't handle this. But think about some real pain you've been in. Think about if you've been in an accident or something, right? There's some real difficulties. Anything that brings you actually close to death is like 1,000 times harder than the hardest urge you've ever had to watch porn. So it's a total delusion. And again, I know that most people are not ready for this, but this one of the things I want to point to, and I want to plant this seed in your head. Like, one of the things you can start to realize is that you're just pretending. You're pretending that you can't handle this. You're pretending that you're a victim here. And this exercise can help you notice that. It can help you notice that I'm playing a game with myself, right? I'm creating the illusion. I'm creating the frame that I'm a victim of this thing that I can't control. It is nonsense. It is nonsense. You have to pretend to be so small and so weak for that to be true. And you're not that small and that weak. You're playing a role. But again, I know that for most people, it's like, what the hell is he talking about? I know.
And it's not a judgment of your character.
No.
That
We all do
you're
that.
that one is feeling that weak or needing to be seen as weak or victim mentality. It's not a judgment of that. This is just an awareness for yourself that there's something else to come. There's more work to be done. This is the first step in a longer journey, and you've got to crack open that awareness, and this is the way to do it, is to sit with it.
Yes. And in fact, this is a good place. This is a good place to go to. You can ask yourself, because you said this is not a judgment. There's a reason for this. Yes, there's a very good reason for this.
Exactly.
You are putting yourself in this victim mode. You are playing this role of being small and weak and not in control for a very good reason, guaranteed. You just don't know that reason yet, and that's one of the things you can ask yourself. Why am I doing this? How does this serve me? Right. So,
what do I want?
Beyond
this.
Exactly. What's going on here? Why am I doing this to myself? If you assume that you're somehow doing this to yourself, if you assume that you've learned this type of behavior, you've learned to be this victim, you've learned to be this addict for a reason, what would that reason be? So you can ask yourself, how does this thing serve me? You can also ask yourself, what would happen if I were completely addiction-free right now? If the addiction disappeared, what would happen? Is there anything about that's kind of scary? And just to give an example of some stories I've heard, is like, it could be that, okay, if I completely got rid of my porn addiction, then I know that I would still have sexual desires and urges, and I would have to go and talk to women, and I'm terrified of that. I don't want that, because it brings up all these fears. I feel unattractive. I feel worthless. I hate being rejected and so on. And I so don't want that I would rather be a porn addict, right? But I don't want to admit to myself, right? I'm like not accepting of this situation. So I don't want to admit to myself that I'm just really scared of talking to women, or that I'm, so hurt from past rejections that I never want to do it again or whatever. I want to tell myself a different story, and the story I tell myself is, I just can't handle this addiction. But so it serves me, the addiction serves me, it protects me from the pain of rejection, from the pain of reliving, my last whatever terrible breakup or whatever. It protects me from that pain, right? So that's an example of how you're an addict because it serves you. And along those lines as well, you can another way in which you can like actively engage with the feelings is you can have a conversation with your addict self. So you can say, okay, what happens, or this is one way to frame it, right? What happens is almost like it seems like a different version of me takes over.
Mm-hmm.
There's a sober version of me who doesn't want to be an addict. And there's the addict me who's like, screw that guy's goals, screw that guy's values. I just want to get off. What's going on there? Can I meet my addict self? Can I basically bring my sober self and my addict self together in the same room at the same time? Because usually it's one or the other. And can I have a conversation and figure out, okay, so what's up with you? So this is called parts work or internal family systems. The therapy modality that this idea comes from is called internal family systems. And one of the key ideas there is that you can have some really astonishingly surprising conversations with parts of yourself. And one of the ideas is all the parts of yourself are doing something for you. There are no bad parts.
Exactly.
There are no parts who are your enemy who want to destroy your life. They're all trying to help you somehow. But again, it's kind of a broken pattern. So that addict self says, oh, no, we need to keep watching porn because otherwise something bad happens, basically, right? It's like the addict self basically says, listen, the reason I take over and make you do this is because if I didn't, something bad would happen. And it's maybe something bad, like, again, this is from a past experience, right? Oh, last time we did such and such happen. It could even be from very early childhood, right? That you just learned, like one of the things that was the thing that I had to deal with is I basically learned to like hide and contain my sexual energy, my sexual drive. For some reason, I got the impression that this is a dangerous, bad thing, and that the worst thing I can do is inflict another person with this. And so, if that's the bad thing I have to avoid, but this sexual desire keeps coming, I have to do something with it. And so it was like, here's the addiction. This is the solution. I'm gonna jerk off to porn, so that I don't inflict this bad energy on other people, essentially, right? So there was a part of me that believed that story. There was a part of me that was like, we need to do this in order to save other people from this bad thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it takes all of this that you're saying, it takes time, right? It's not going to come on the first session. And that is one of the biggest objections that we hear is that I asked and he didn't say anything, or I asked the question and I can't think of the answer.
Yeah.
Again, this is something you have to commit to. You're making a choice and you're saying, okay, I'm going to do that exercise, and then I'm going to sit again, waiting for as long as it takes. And if it's not going to happen immediately, and there are stepping stones, like warm-up exercises, but the thing is, you've just got to make a choice to say, I'm going to start this process and commit to it, even if it's not working fully, because it is going to take time.
And it's a skill, basically.
It's
again,
a skill.
right? It's a skill, being able to like be in tune with that. For this too, we'll put a link in the description. You can go to the Quit by Healing community. There's a shadow work course, which is also free. So for more guidance on how to do this.
Yeah.
All right. Now, one of the ways to do this is, and to do this kind of work and actively engage with the urges, through writing. So you can use writing to describe what am I feeling, what's happening, and like externalize what's going on. You can use writing to also explore. You can use writing to have this conversation, to ask these questions that we were talking about before. You can also use it to explore like your true desires. It's like, okay, is there an underlying need, right? It's like there's this surface level feeling of I just want to get off to some porn. But is there an underlying need? Is there something else going on? And writing is usually a more fruitful way to get answers than just thinking. And you can do what you've called an emo dump, right? Where basically you just use the page to vent to.
Yeah. Just let the emotions, and that's the first question always. This is what I meant by stepping stones. Like the first thing is just express how you're feeling, and you can swear and go off and have a tantrum. And then don't stop again there. Yeah. Just stop, put the pen down, close your eyes, and breathe for a second. Think for a second and go, do I want to say more? And if the answer is, I don't know, or not yet, then just wait just a little. Everything's always just about just taking it a little bit further. Because if you've ever been in a situation where things get awkward between two people, and everybody, you've both been talking at each other and you're both trying to get your point across, and then at some point, sometimes it goes silent. And then it's awkwardly silent. And then something happens. Then somebody goes, oh, I'm sorry, I just realized something. Or, oh, actually, I've got a better idea. Yeah. It's at the end of that awkward silence, because in that awkward silence, you kind of start grabbing for things and questioning things. So it's important to realize that a writing exercise doesn't mean the pen and the paper have to be touching the whole time. You can also take the pen off, think, breathe, come back to it. Ask your addict self a question, and then take that silent moment where you're both sitting there. Who's going to crack first? Am I going to speak again, or are you going to speak again? And just sit with that. And it's a game, right? You start having fun with this way.
Yeah, and what you're talking about is also like a life skill, a very, very basic life skill of like how do you go through the process? You're talking about like this is a basic feature of like mental and emotional processing. Stuff develops. It takes a little bit of time, and having the awareness of this kind of thing instead of always, again, we live in a world, unfortunately, that it kind of makes us expect that there should be constant stimulation, constant fireworks, right? But no, what if having that awareness of I'm just going to let things unfold, that too is almost like a meta skill that hopefully you develop through all the other stuff we've been talking about already.
There's also the idea that there's a right and a wrong way to do these things, and there definitely isn't a perfect or right way, which is why it's more difficult than the previous category of habits to do, because those are prescribed and you can kind of go, oh, I know what I'm doing here. And that's why often you see people gravitate towards those instead of the healing stuff, and then wonder why 3 years later I'm still addicted. Well, you only did the easier option.
Right, exactly. So the final thing I also want to talk about here in the active engagement bit of moving through the urge is, and this goes essentially into spiritual practice, where you can work on transmuting what's happening inside you. Although even there, I would prefer a better term for that. But essentially, you can start to pay attention to how is this energy moving through your body, and depending on, I use the term energy simply to describe the thing you feel. It doesn't have to be a separate, it doesn't have to be. I mean, even if you look at the concept of qi, for example, from Chinese medicine, it's not really like an ethereal, different thing moving through your body. It is like energy and attention, and, in a way it's mundane. It's not a different spiritual, magical, blue, glowy thing. It is, you feel this weird knot in your stomach, that's energy, right? Because it's some combination of things happening there. That some of it is maybe physical, some of it is like emotional, mental, whatever. And when you feel an urge, that's basically what I mean. It has like an energy signature almost. There's a certain kind of way in which this feels in your body, and you probably feel it in your chest more than in your pinky, right? So in that sense, there's more energy, quote unquote, in your chest than in your pinky when you're having an urge, and you're just paying attention to that. But now you can then start, once you've noticed this energy signature in your body, you can start doing things to actually move that deliberately. And one of the things you can explore there, for example, is you can do the root lock, or the the Mula Bandha, I think, where you can look this up, right? But you essentially squeeze your perineum muscle, and you do a certain physical thing. But the interesting thing about this physical move you're making is that it changes how your energy flows, right? So you might notice that stuff is going on, and when you do this and you pay attention to how does the feeling in my body change, when you do the root lock, it tends to have like this settling effect, right? And there are various other things you can do there, and this comes out of yoga, where you can do certain moves that are essentially physical moves, but they change how your body feels. So this is almost like the nervous system stuff with regulating your breath, and it changes how your nervous system functions. It's like certain things change how this energy moves through your body. And you can then turn that into a practice. So you can say, I'm going to take this energy, I'm going to start moving it around. You can do like a central channel breath where you start moving it up and down your spine and things like that, right? And what also belongs in this category, you can let the feelings inside you move your body. And this would be called intuitive movement or somatic movement or whatever. But again, you can basically say, I'm going to start letting this express itself through movement, through sound, etc. And that's another way in which you can lean into it, right? You're leaning into the experience instead of trying to get away from the experience. And all of this, again, is a skill. Most people, if you go, okay, now let this feeling that you have in your body move you, they don't know what to do because they're not that in tune with it. They're also too shy, right? I'm not going to do this because it's weird kind of thing. So that's where you also have to develop all these other introspective skills. You have to develop all these emotional skills and so on. And over time, you can get to the point where you can work with what's happening inside you much more effectively. And you're not just in that victim frame around it anymore.
Yeah. One of the ones I'll just add to that worked well for me was using colors within your body. So you can use the chakra colors. I mean, whether you believe it or into it, or is it completely irrelevant? You just use that as a frame where you kind of go, okay, I have the urge. I now feel where it is. I feel it in my throat or something. And then you go, okay, I'm going to move this urge into my head with a purple color. And you just imagine the color purple. And again, you're working with the urge. You're not trying to distract from it, but you're transmuting it or you're moving it into something else. And it eventually, what shook out of that for me is that one of the colors would be like screaming bright. And then that would lead to another thought. And then I would have some kind of revelation about, oh, this is what's wrong with my life right now. Right. I know what to do, Eureka, right, you know. Right. So yeah, and that's the part you hope for with all these exercises, that you come to that moment where I think I know what it is. I think
yeah. All this internal stuff, that's a good point. All this internal stuff is a good sign that it's working is when you're surprised.
Yeah.
You know, when you're surprised at the answer you get when you're writing, when you're surprised at how something changes inside you when you're doing this, that's a good sign.
Yeah. And there's another one that's not as amazing, but it's important to know, is that you kind of go, oh, I knew that, but I'm glad I saw it.
Right.
Like, oh, I knew I was upset, but I'm glad now I know I was upset.
Right.
And it's a very small, obvious thing.
Noticing the obvious.
Yeah. But noticing the obvious, that's what it is. It's important.
To round this off, so now, and if you're watching the video version of this, we'll put like a graphical illustration of everything we talked about on screen at various points.
And show notes will have the long list, basically.
Yeah, exactly. We'll basically make this easier to browse. But even if you have this whole overview of all this stuff. So let's get back to the question of, well, what's the best thing to do? And we've already hinted at this, like some of these more advanced things can be extremely effective, but unless you've done other work, you might just not have the level of self-awareness or the skills necessary to get this result, right? So like a conversation with the Addict Self, if you don't have some level of self-awareness and some level of ability to introspect, this might just not work. If it does work, it can be very effective, but sometimes you have to do groundwork to get there. But an important thing to realize here, if we're asking ourselves, what's the best thing to do, is that, think about it like this. If all you do is everything in the dissipate category, you do all of these, do the skill building, you do the exercise, you do all of this stuff. The good thing is that this will improve your life in countless ways. The bad thing is that you might still be addicted even if you do this for a long time. So you might be able to, like, you build this whole stack of habits, you learn all these skills, you read all the books, and you'll probably relapse a lot less often because now you're busy and you're not always at home and all this kind of stuff, right? And that's great. And especially if you do the social stuff, you might, like, almost as a side effect, start healing the internal stuff that made you an addict, and then that solves the problem. But let's say that doesn't happen. Again,
You're
that's
just
like
exercising and focusing on money. You're the
Yeah.
you're the jacked
Right.
millionaire,
Exactly.
bro, but with a porn addiction.
Exactly, yeah. And you can absolutely be that guy, right? So you're doing the habits, you're taking the cold showers, you're exercising all the time, you're reading the books, you're doing the business, whatever, and you're still addicted to porn. So what's going on? And let me be clear, you're addicted to porn in a much healthier state. You're probably doing it a lot less than if you didn't do all those things. So this is a net improvement. But you're like, why am I still dealing with urges sometimes? Why am I still doing this? Like, what's going on? Well, it's because you're not doing the real healing work. You're never addressing that underlying issue. You're never confronting your addict self. You're never going, oh, here there's something in my life I need to address in order to really not need this addiction anymore, right? You're never doing that. So you can have all kinds of good habits, you can get great results in your life, but you're still struggling with the addiction. On the other hand, what if you only do the stuff that moves you through the addiction? What if you say, I'm going to do only the internal work to heal and nothing else? If you're able to do this, it's very difficult to do, first of all, right? But if you're able to do this, and I think it would be possible, you could probably heal your addiction without doing any of the other stuff. Especially if you just said, like, okay, I'm going to go on like a 30-day silent retreat or something away from my phone. And so all I can do is just sit with it, you know? You probably make a lot of progress in that time. And especially if you bring in some of these other tools we talked about, you start addressing those underlying issues. You start dissolving that internal tension. You really get to the point where it's like, okay, I don't need this anymore.
I'm at peace with myself, and all that comes. Yeah.
You could get there. But even that has a downside still, because then it's like, okay, now what do I do with my life?
I'm nowhere.
Right. It's like, well, and obviously maybe the answer is I'm just going to sit here in this monastery and meditate for the rest of my life.
It's an option.
It's definitely an option. But for most people, it's like, well, there are things I want to do and experience and create. And that's where that leads you back to the other part. Now you have to build your skills, develop your mind, and all this kind of stuff, right? So these two things really... This is why we talk about all this, and this is essentially what we talk about. This is the Quit by Healing method: is doing both of these things.
Both, yeah, and a good balance of both.
Yeah.
It's so essential.
Yeah,
I had an experience last month with you, where I was doing some shadow work. This is after the Spartan mode. It was like intense month, and then I took a little bit of a slowdown, and I got really deep into some shadow work. And I hit a wall, and I just couldn't get through it. And you said to me, I'm paraphrasing here, but you basically said, Dean, you can't think your way out of this. You've got to go do something now. And that's when it occurred to me, I've been too long on the one side.
Yeah.
I spent Spartan mode. I was just like so intensely on the one side.
Yeah.
And then shadow work month, so intensely on the other side. And then the takeaway was, okay, those were both sprints. And I'm glad I did them. But real life, let me find the balance between these two things. Let me find an adequate amount of skills that I can go to when I'm bored. But wait, I also need to be okay with being bored sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's like my goal in life, is to try and find that balance.
And it also, I don't think there is a perfect balance of, exactly this much of that. No. It's become the person who, like, you build your own version of this, because look, some people are going to be more physical, some people are going to be more mental, some people are going to do more internal work, some people are going to do more external work. That's all fine. You find, as long, like, you basically find a balance of these things that works for you, right? So again, there's no one right thing to do, and it's also not you have to do all of these every day or anything like that, right? That's also unrealistic. But it's like, this is the exploration. This is how and this is the most effective way to beat your addiction, is to do the internal work while you build a life that makes it unnecessary for you to have an addiction, right? Because that's a big part of it. So, and it's ongoing work. You do the work of living this life. That's it, right? The Quit by Healing method is comprehensive, but trust me, this works so much better than most of the other stuff that people talk about, right? People love to present simple solutions.
Yeah.
Just do X.
Yeah.
But X alone is never going to do it, basically.
with all these options and the thing of like balance it out, it still might be unclear to people to say, I still have analysis paralysis from all these options. So what is your recommendation if you go, I don't know which ones to pick. I don't know how do you get going on making that choice when this happens, when an urge hits?
Start in the order in which we presented this is essentially the order in which to explore it, right? So you start with the dissipation thing. You want to have some tools to dissipate, and you start with physical. And you go by, so it's like, what is the physical thing you can do? What is the physical thing you want to do? Mm-hmm. That is one of the options. That becomes one of the options. I do this instead of relapsing. And you pick a couple of the skills that are appealing to you. Again, you add these options, right? Mm-hmm. Where you end up with like, okay, I can do 4 other things that are all good for me instead of relapsing. And then when you have that, and again, you start with physical, and then you go by curiosity. And when you have that, you start developing the internal stuff. You start by writing, start by sitting in the fire. You explore this and you keep going where your curiosity leads you, and you keep going with what works for you. And it's also important, look, this is your exploration, because there is no way to beat an addiction without self-responsibility. I cannot become unaddicted for you, right? So this is part of it. It's like there are multiple options. You have to choose. And you have to get to the point where you can say, yeah, I'm going to make that choice, right? I'm going to choose which of these things I'm going to do. I'm going to choose what to prioritize. And especially for the healing, for moving through, there's only so much you can put into a template. Ultimately, you have to develop the awareness of what is happening inside me, what is working for me, what can I do, right? There's no way around self-responsibility. So in a way, the fact that there are many things to choose from here is a feature. Is deliberate, right? Because anything that is just, again, anything that's just do the one thing, just do this one thing, and that will solve your problem. It is deceptive, and it's usually marketing, right? It's marketing because people like the idea that there's just the one puzzle piece missing. And someone's probably trying to get your money. And once they have your money, you'll find that the one thing doesn't work. And if they're, if they're following like the guru playbook, they'll make you feel bad about it. Because it's like, it's your failure that the one thing that I gave you isn't working. And that's not helpful.
Yeah. So in essence, it's like, do all of them.
Yeah.
But start with one.
Yeah.
Right. It's that simple, actually. Yeah. My recommendation from my own experience is, if you can't make a choice, start with a very short breathwork session, 5 minutes, or one of the breathing techniques. The one you mentioned, there's actually a link that we can give you in the show notes, that you can use that one. It's just to gain that moment where you can make a better decision for yourself. Yeah. You can't think when you're in urge mode. So break open that little wedge. It's not going to solve your urge. It's not going to take it away entirely, but it's going to give you a gap to make another choice. And that's when you can say, I'm going to do this one, or I'm going to do this one this time. Yeah. And it's part of your if-then plan, right? You can take a couple of these and put them into a more extensive if-then plan. Yeah.
And another thing, so again, in the links in the show notes, you can find the Quit by Healing community. You can join the community, and that is another thing where you can go ask questions there. You can ask other people, what have you tried? What's working for you, and so on, right? And often, I'm going to be honest, right? If you ask questions in the questions channel, often I'm going to throw it back at you and make you make your own decision for the same reasons, but still, like, there's always something you can do. All right. So with that is the comprehensive overview of what to do when the urge hits. If you really absorb this, you probably don't need anything else to beat this addiction. And once again, we're shoveling the grave of our own business here. But honestly, if you actually get this, there's not much else you need.
And of course, there's content on every single one of these pretty much. Every single aspect we spoke about has a deeper analysis of why, how, what, instructions.
So you can find all of that. The best place to find our content is the Quit by Healing YouTube channel. And if you enjoy the content we create, one of the things you can do, because all of this is free, as I'm sure you've noticed, one of the things you can do is you can engage with our content, leave a rating on the podcast app, give a thumbs up on YouTube, leave a comment, do all this engagement stuff, because that tells the algorithm to show it to more people, right? That's one of the best things you can do to help us. Our goal is to help more people, and you can help us help more people by clicking the buttons, telling the algorithm this is important. And that makes the algorithm do what it's supposed to do and show people this instead of whatever garbage it's showing people right now. So with that, thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.